Hello, Drafting 10. This is the very first lesson that we are going to do inside AutoCAD, the web version. And in order to start, you're going to need the starting template.dwg drawing, which is available above this video inside Blackboard. So do make sure that you have that file and that you've uploaded it. So I'll just go back quickly to our home. And you likely have set up these folders. If you haven't already, in your AutoCAD home area, you probably just have a default samples folder in there, and if you want, you can match the directory tree that you have on your computer just by putting in new folders and then titling them appropriately. If you ever want to change it, you just right-click and go to rename. So if you have your folders up there already, that's great. If not, maybe pause the video and just create those folders, and then go to your templates folder. And then when you're in your templates folder, upload the file starting template, which again is available for download on Blackboard. And then make sure you've got that in here because that's the drawing we're going to start with. As soon as it is uploaded, you can click on it. And depending on the speed of your internet and your graphics card, it should pop up with what looks like a title block. And I'm just going to use this lesson to give you some basic navigation inside AutoCAD and to make sure that you know how to move around efficiently. Okay, so a couple things to start here. I have made a title block for this class. You can use it or you can create your own. I don't think there's any need to. It's got everything that we need for the course, and it is also editable. So there are layers that I have inserted into this document, and there's a reason for that. If you start a document from scratch every time, it won't automatically build the number of layers and colors that you need for your drawings. But if you create sort of a starting point, a template, it will always pop up with these, and it'll keep all of your settings from the last time that you worked on the document. Now, this is really important in that whenever you start a drawing in the starting template, before you do anything else at all, you go to Save and then Save As, and then you title it not starting template. You title it whatever the drawing that you're doing is. So maybe I'll just do navigation practice for this one because that's what I'm going to be doing with it. And the reason we do that is it'll save a new copy without affecting the original starting template drawing. But you'll notice that now it is named navigationpractice.dwg. And additionally, I have all of the layers and blocks that I need from that original starting template. So now anything that I change and save will be on the new drawing, and I won't be overwriting my starting template. The second thing that you should do whenever you start a new drawing is go down to the title block area and make the necessary changes. So in this case, I would click on title block, click just being the normal left click. And then once you're in title block, actually, if you just double click it, it'll pop up a little window where you can type in whatever you want. Now, convention is usually all capital letters, so put your caps on, lock on, and we'll just call this drawing practice or something like that. And then you can change, oh, by the way, if it goes into two lines, you can just click on it and then grab this little arrow and bring it that way. And that should give you a little extra line. Designed by your name, the date, the paper size you probably won't need to change at all. You can just leave it. We might deal with scale later, but you can leave that one for now, and you can just leave the online learning secondary. So really for every drawing, you only need to change the title, and after you save the first one, your name's probably going to be in there, and then change the date. Okay, so here's some basic navigation inside of AutoCAD to help you locate items and zoom in and be able to edit things effectively. The mouse, typically people have three-button mice now, and it might be a little bit different for Mac, but I'm sure you've figured out the ways to navigate a Mac mouse if that's the sort of computer and operating system you have. But in general, the middle mouse scrolly wheel is going to be your zoom in and out. So the default is set to when you are pushing upward or scrolling upward, it zooms in. And then when you're pulling back towards yourself, just with the scrolly wheel, it zooms out. So that's very, very handy when you're going in to check on smaller details in your drawings. If you ever get too far in or you just want to quickly reset it, you just double click the middle scrolly button. So you can scroll in, scroll out, and then you can also double click that button. And double clicking it does something called zoom extents, which it just takes whatever the outside edges of your drawing are, whatever it may be, and then it just makes it as full screen as possible. So those are really handy little navigation tips there. And you'll also notice that it zooms wherever your cursor is. So wherever your cursor is, when you spin the mouse button or the scroll wheel, is where it's going to zoom in. So that's pretty handy too. All right, the second major sort of navigation helper is the pan tool, which just allows you to basically move where your eyes are. Okay, the drawing itself never moves. It's always anchored, even though you see this little XY coordinate system here, and it looks like it moves sometimes. It doesn't. The icon for the XY may move, but your drawing actually stays in the same place all the time. What you're moving is you're actually moving your eyes around. Okay, so if you want to pan the drawing really quickly, instead of zooming out and then zooming in on something else, let's say you're zoomed in here and you know you just want to move to the right a little bit, all you do is you hold down that middle mouse button and it allows you to basically pan over. Oops, I accidentally double clicked it. It allows you to pan over, up, down, wherever. So it's just basically like grabbing it. I mean, really, again, your eyes are moving because the coordinates of everything that you've drawn stay where they are, but it allows you to go to a different part of the drawing really quickly just by kind of grabbing and moving. Okay, the second biggest tip I can offer you with regard to navigating in AutoCAD is sort of the industry standard trick here. What you do is with your left hand, you make an L shape where your thumb always rests on the space bar and either your index finger or your middle finger or your ring finger goes to the escape key. So hopefully your hands are big enough that you can comfortably have a thumb on the space bar and maybe your middle finger on the escape key. That's the way I do it. And the reason that this L shape is really popular for developers is because AutoCAD basically accepts by using the space bar. So if you click on a tool and maybe you enter some numbers, if you hit the space bar, it accepts it. It's basically like saying okay, okay, okay. And some of the tools we're going to be using have more than one step, so you're going to be hitting the space bar several times. Escape does the exact opposite. It basically goes backwards inside a command, and it resets it after you've done something. So after you've done something like maybe draw a line or created some object or whatnot, what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to hit escape 3 times. And the reason I do it 3 times is, again, some of the tools that we're going to use, they require 2 or 3 steps. So hitting escape 3 times, just make sure you get back to sort of default and now you're ready to use the next tool. The other nice thing about spacebar is if you've used a tool, the odds are the next tool you use is going to be the same one. It doesn't always have to be that way, obviously. I could draw a line and then after that need to draw a circle. But a lot of times you'll be drawing a line and then you'll have to draw a line again. So if you just tap the space bar, it actually goes to the last command that you used. So if I'm drawing just a line up here, say, okay, and then I want to draw another line below it, okay, if I just keep hitting the mouse button, it'll just actually keep drawing lines. Okay, I'm going to go and start again here. I'm just going to draw one line up top, and then let's just say I wanted to draw another line somewhere else. I would click to end my line, or type in how long I wanted the line to be. That might be a better way, but I've drawn this line, and I hit escape, and now you notice my cursor can go anywhere. If I hit the space bar, it assumes I want to draw another line. So that's kind of handy. So if you have to draw, 2 or 3 lines in a row, instead of having to go and select the tool again or type in the shortcut for the tool, you can just keep hitting spacebar as long as you just want to keep drawing lines. And the same thing if you're drawing something like a circle. If I draw a circle here and I needed to draw another one right away, I could just hit the spacebar and then it knows that the last thing I did was draw a circle. So that's what I might want to do. So that's another sort of really handy tip and trick there is if you use that spacebar escape combo, it'll save you a lot of time. Shortcuts really do save a lot of time, and you're not going to get all of them right away because there are a lot of commands that you could use on the keyboard, like literally hundreds of them, and you just kind of pick them up one by one as you need them. But in general, if you can use the keyboard, you will save yourself time in moving the mouse over to a tool, clicking on the tool, and then moving the mouse back. It doesn't seem like that takes a lot of time, but when you're working on a drawing for an hour or something like that, it actually does save you considerable amounts. So I try to use the keyboard shortcuts wherever I can, and I recommend that you do the same, but I also don't recommend that you get the big list of them and memorize them all. You will just kind of pick them up as you use them. It might take you a bit more time in the beginning, But in general, you'll pick them up pretty quickly. And some of the keyboard shortcuts that I use very often are L for line. So if I hit L spacebar, it assumes I want to draw a line. Anytime you're drawing a shape, a line, any sort of geometric construction, AutoCAD is great in that it just allows you to pick a direction, and then it allows you to type in the length, or if it's a circle, maybe the radius, etc. So instead of me guessing, which you never ever do in AutoCAD, let's say I want to draw a line that's exactly 600 units long. AutoCAD will track the lengths of things down to like 7 or 8 decimals. Nothing we do in this drafting class can be close. It has to be perfect. That's part of the engineering design process. So if I want to draw a line that's 600 units long, and we will go into more detail on these tools, but I just want you to notice you can see the length of the line in the little box above. I can try to get it close to 600, but I can never get it right on, right? It's always 599 point something or 601 point something. So you never guess. You just type in the length that you want. If you've got a keyboard that's got the number pad on the right-hand side, it tends to be a little bit easier than going up to the top of the keyboard. So I've just gotten used with my right hand. So my left hand's always the L. My right hand will be dancing on the number pad. So if I want 600, I'll type 600, and then I'll hit spacebar. And now I know that line is exactly 600. And if I were to actually go and measure it, I could just mouse over it, and you can see, look at that, to 4 decimal places, it is 600 on the nose. So that, L command for line, C is, I believe, CI. So if you type CI quickly and then hit spacebar, it'll allow you to draw a circle. And once again, you can pick the, I believe it's set to radius, but I'll double check that. I typed in 100. Now I'm just checking right now, was the radius of that 100 or was the diameter of that 100? So let's just check. The radius was 100. You'll see if I go from the center, if I measure from the center of the circle to any of the edges of the circle, it tells me 100. So it's defaulted to radius. And there's a whole bunch of tools, or sorry, a whole bunch of shortcuts that I will use, and you'll just see them sort of one by one as I go through the tutorials, and you'll get used to them yourself. So that's another recommendation. All right, now as far as selecting objects, I want to show you how to do that. When you have anything drawn on your screen, there's 2 ways to select the things that you've drawn. One way is with the left mouse button, clicking and dragging a rectangle from the left side to the right side, and the other is dragging from the right side to the left side. Now, it looks like they do the same things, but they actually don't. So if I go up here and I go from the left to the right, and I'm just going to go over top of this circle, just the edge of it, it doesn't select anything. You notice that. If I go over the line and part of the circle, it doesn't select anything. So the deal with the moving from left to right is that you have to completely enclose the object before it selects it. So if I go and drag a rectangle over the entire circle, you'll notice now the circle is selected. You got the little handles. But you should also notice it didn't select the line as well. The reason being, I only dragged over the entire circle. I didn't drag over the entire line. So that's how you can isolate certain elements without getting anything that intersects with it. So if I delete this, I've just deleted the circle. I have not deleted the line as well. If I wanted to grab both of them, then I could just go over top of the entire line and circle, and I grabbed it. So that's one way of selecting objects that you're going to either modify, edit, delete, that sort of thing. And the other way is to go from the right to the left. If you go from the right to the left, you actually only need to touch the 2 objects anywhere. So right there, I'm touching both the circle and the line. So it automatically selects both of them, even though I didn't surround them. And again, if I just select, say, a piece of the line, it'll just grab the line. If I just select a piece of the circle, it'll grab the circle. And that's the one I use more often, because usually I'm trying to grab more than one thing. So I just do a quick little rectangle from the right to the left. But there will be certainly times where you want to grab, go from the top left to the top or the bottom right. And you can do it from the bottom to the top too. It doesn't matter. The point is going either left to right or right to left makes a difference. All right, general shortcuts that you might recognize from other programs are Control Z and Control Y. Control Z is the universal sort of undo button. I did something and I decided I don't like it, so I'm going to hit Control Z to undo it. So for instance, I'm drawing a line, and I drew it at the wrong angle, so I don't want it. I could select that line and hit the delete key. Okay, it works fine. Or I could, after I draw the line, I could just hit Control Z. So maybe I drew the line, Control Z gets rid of it, Control Z again gets rid of it. So it's like history. It goes backward and forward. Okay, so it's more. You can do it more than one time. You just hold your pinky on the Control key, the Ctr key, and then hit the Z with your other finger. It'll just go back one step at a time. And the opposite of that is the Control Y. So Control Y will go forward one step at a time. So now I'm just redoing all those things that I went back. So backwards and forwards. And those are pretty common to other programs, you know, like Microsoft Word and working with Google Docs and things like that. The other thing that I commonly use is the delete key, right? If I just want to delete a whole bunch of stuff at once, I'm just going to select everything, hit the delete key on the keyboard. Not the backspace key, but the delete key. I don't know, the backspace key might work as well, but I doubt it. Oops, that was the delete key again. So used to hitting the delete key. Backspace does not. Okay, so yeah, you should be using the delete key if you've got things surrounded that you want to go. So that's a couple more sort of handy little shortcuts there. And the other thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that you set up your user preferences so that they're similar to mine and you can see the same things on your screen that I'm seeing on mine. So the layout for AutoCAD Web, you actually can't change it like in other programs. You can't just like drag menu items around, which is good because we're all going to have exactly the same menu. You can use these little arrows to send them back and forth, these left side menus here, which you may want to do. I typically leave them open. It's just a little easier for me, and I have a big enough monitor that I can see everything that I need to, and if I can't, I can always zoom out or zoom in again. All right, first menu item on the top here is the Properties button, and whatever item that you have selected, draw a circle here, any item that you have selected, it's going to tell you a bit about what that object is and what layer it is on. It's very important that we have multiple layers in AutoCAD because we are going to have lines and shapes that we use to set up our real drawing, but we don't want them to appear on the final version. So we use them to construct all the lines and shapes in our drawing, but at the end of the day, if we don't want to see them in the final drawing, we can hide them. Didn't mean to hit that one. So if I want to hide the red layer after I've used that circle, say to do something with the other circle, there's a little light bulb there, and if I turn it off, you'll notice that it is hidden. It's not gone, it's just hidden, because we might want to go back to it and use that circle again. So it's important to have all these different layers, and if you're using my drawing template, which you should, you'll have these layers set up in these colors, and it's everything that you'll need in the course. The 0 layer is kind of an industry standard for this is your final drawing layer. These are the lines that should show up when you either print off your document or you email it or you make a PDF of it and send it to a client or something like that. So that's the most important layer because those are the lines that are integral to the drawing. Then I've got 5 layers called Con 1 through 5, all different colors. So these layers are what we call construction layers, and those layers just allow you to draw lines that you might need to use in your program, but that you don't necessarily want the final user to see. So, there's a bunch of different colors here, and I'm drawing these lines using different colors. My Con 3 is, I think you get the idea, right? There's different colors. Because if you have everything all in one color, it can be very difficult to tell lines apart sometimes, and you might forget what you used that line to measure. So I've got 5 con lines, construction lines, all of different colors, and they're very useful. You use them in the class. I've got a CTR layer, and what a CTR layer is it's a center line. So if you're drawing things like circles, oftentimes you have to do a center line or a center mark, and those lines need to look a little bit different than others. If I zoom in, you'll notice that it's got a long dash, short dash, long dash, whereas every other line is just continuous. Okay, now you can change that. If that, you always want that, those little dashes to show in your center lines and in something called a hidden line. So the scale that I've got it on right now is actually not a very good one. I've got it on center times 2. I should probably change that. At some point, line weight. not letting me modify that right now. I may fix this before I give it to you and scale that. I might be able to scale it here. Scale the line. All right, so I'll probably just fix that in the template drawing before you down it, but you'll be able to see the lines. And I know there's a way to scale line types. I just have momentarily forgotten how to do it. Line type. In any case, all you need to know is that it is a different type of line. And maybe when you're creating the line, it allows you to do that. And then again, maybe not. Just going to delete that layer. Double click my middle mouse button, zoom back to extents, and the other line that's important is something called a HID, or hidden line, and you'll use this for a different purpose. It's for lines that exist in drawings, but you can't see them just because of the angle you're looking at a drawing. And it, just like center lines, it is a dash, just in a slightly different way. So if I zoom in on this, you can see that it's just consistent dashes for that one, as opposed to a long dash, short dash. So those are the, I think those are the ones that you're going to use most often, those confives, the center line, the hidden line. Orthographic is just me trying to help you out a little bit with Unit 3. When you're setting up your drawings, it's very helpful to have a couple of lines here to set them up, because we need to have, in our orthographics unit, where you're going to have either 2 or 3 versions of an object, looking at it from different sides. So this one would be the front, this would be looking at the object from the top, and this would be looking at the object from the end. And it's helpful to have these gray lines in there as a starting point. So I've got those in there for now, but I'm just going to hide them from now, and I'll hide them on the template. We'll use them when we need to use them. So you should be set up well with layers, as long as you've got the title block I've given you. Okay, and again, properties, when you draw something, it'll just show you the properties of the thing that you're clicked on. So if I select this circle, you notice it's on the 0 layer. It's got a line type by layer, which just means it matches the layer. I didn't change it. I can actually go and change it manually if I want to. And now here's the line type scale actually that I was looking for when I was doing the hidden line. If you make this bigger, it'll make the dashes larger or smaller. And what else we got here? We got line weight. We don't need to change this very often, but if you want to make a really thick line, you can change the weight of the line. So I'll just change that line weight, and I'll just make that like 20 or something. And when you print it off, it'll actually be a thicker line on the paper. You don't necessarily see it inside your AutoCAD web, but that line right there would be like a much bolder, thicker line than the default. Dimension style, text style, etc. We'll get into those things later, but you just need to know that the object properties, whatever you're clicked on at the time when you look at that menu, so if I'm clicked on the line, it'll show you the properties of that particular object, line, shape, whatever it is. We already went through the layers drawing. There's not really much else for properties. Don't worry about blocks, don't worry about XREF or traces. You won't need them, so it's just those two that you need to know up there. Your main drawing tools are down here. You've got lines and shapes in the first set. Annotate means that you're going to put measurements, or you're going to measure things, or use things called revision clouds. So if you want to just send a message to somebody about the drawing that they sent you, you can put a little revision cloud and then some text up there, just say, oops, just, change this or something. Make it a little smaller. So something like that, little revision cloud saying, hey, this part is wrong, change it. You'll get used to the revision cloud if you work in industry. So that's annotate, and also for taking dimensions or measurements of a certain line. So that line is, is 426.1834 units. And the last little tab here is the modify menu. When you're doing things like scaling objects, moving objects, putting certain types of corners on objects, rotating objects, basically you've got something that's done already or drawn already, and you want to make some sort of modification. So let's say I drew a line through that circle, and I wanted to cut out a part of that circle. One of the tools in modify is something called trim, and trim will allow you to select a knife and basically cut out what you want to cut out. I could have cut that out, or I could have cut out not undo, trim. I could have cut that out, or I could have cut this out. Oops, there, cut that out. So it's modifying things that already exist in your drawing. We'll definitely use that menu a lot as well. So those are the three sort of main menus that you've got. It's a very stripped down, simple version of AutoCAD, but it's really good to learn on. Okay, down here at the bottom, these things are very important, and I want you to make sure that yours match mine because the tutorials will sort of depend on it. The first one is an O-snap menu, which is basically an object snap menu, and it's where that your cursor will sort of snap to so that you get the exact intersections and angles of lines and shapes and whatnot. So there's certain things in your O-snap that I want you to have turned on, and I'll show you what it looks like if you've got your O-snap set properly. If I go to draw a line, I can start a line, say, out here, and I can make it hit that right at the intersection. So you see when I get close, it kind of snaps there with the little green cursor. That means that it's snapping to the end of that line. And now if I zoom in, no matter how far I zoom in on that, you'll notice it is connected, because we never ever want to have something like this in our drawing where it looks like it's connected from out here, but then you zoom in and you say, uh-oh, that is definitely not connected. So that's why those snaps are really important. The snaps can be used for other things too, like getting a certain angle or getting the center of a circle. So if I want to start at the center of a circle and draw a line, you'll notice that little green plus sign there. It'll snap to the center of the circle, and then I can draw a line. You'd also want it to snap to intersections. So if this line intersects this line, I can get it close, and there you go. I snap it right there. And you'll notice that there's other options too that sort of pop up as I mouse around. And some of those options are maybe making a perfect 90-degree angle. So if I get close to a 90-degree angle, you should see a little L shape that indicates right there that that is going to be a perpendicular. So when I measure that angle there, I will be basically guaranteed that that angle is going to be 90 degrees. I'm zoomed in, see how it's 90 degrees. So there's all sorts of things that these object snaps do. There are many options, but if you just click the O-snap menu, it'll show you what's currently turned on for me. Go into settings and it'll allow you to just use these. So after you click into settings, we'll do a few more things here. Settings is also, by the way, accessible from up there in the gear. It gets to the same spot. So in our settings, I'll start with object snap because that's what I was just demonstrating. I generally have endpoints, so endpoints of lines, midpoints of lines, where lines or shapes intersect. I'll probably turn off apparent intersection for now. We probably won't need that. Extension is handy when you're trying to extend lines and make sure they're straight and on the same angle, so I keep that on. Center is on down here. Sometimes I turn on geometric center, but not unless I need it. And tangent is always very, very handy. A tangent to a circle is a line that just basically lays up and touches one edge of the circle. I always have perpendicular on and parallel on. You can toggle those on and off if you want. I would probably say that perpendicular is more important than parallel. So those are the ones I have on there. And I'll just demonstrate a couple of those really quickly. So if I'm drawing lines, I already demonstrated a perpendicular, intersection, the endpoints of lines. What if I want to do a tangent? So if I want to do a tangent to this little round section here, I can start a line, and then I can get it just close to the edge of the circle. And then what it's going to do is it's going to pop up see that little circle with a line on top of it? And it says tangent. So it thinks I want to make a tangent to that circle, so I'm going to draw a tangent. And then as you get it close, it'll actually let you snap to the tangent point. So right there, that line makes a perfect tangent with the circle. So again, you never guess. Okay, and if I were to move this line off, it's no longer a tangent. But I could also grab it again, grab the endpoint and get it, grab the endpoint, drag it to the circle, and then once you get close enough, it'll say, hey, do you want this to be at a 90-degree angle, a perpendicular? No, not really. I want it to be a tangent, so I just kind of mouse until I see the tangent one, and there we go. That's a perfect tangent. The center is just, the center of a circle or some sort of shape. So if I just draw number of sides 6, I'll draw a hexagon. Inscribed, don't worry, you'll learn about all that stuff later too. I'll just draw a hexagon really quickly, and if I wanted to draw a circle in the center of that, I just get close to the center of, maybe I do need the geometric center for that one. I'm just going to double check here. Just turn the geographic center on, and that will probably show me center of this. There we go. So that would be the center of a shape other than a circle or a square. and then, I can draw a circle and it'll snap to the edge or it'll snap to the corner, and everything is perfect, and whenever I zoom in, it looks like it's not perfect, but it actually is mathematically perfect. It just needs to redraw, so it needs to regenerate, and this is a command in regular AutoCAD. I don't know if it works yeah, it does, regen. So if I regenerate it, it basically just plots the curve again. It's just mathematics running behind, but normally when you zoom in on something that's like a circle or whatnot, you might see some minor overlapping, but all you need to do is just type in REGEN, and it'll regenerate the drawing, and you'll get your line perfect again. So that's most of the object snaps. I think I'm going to turn the geometric center off again because I don't need it unless I'm drawing polygons. I don't think there's anything else in there that you need to know. So that should be good for your object snap menu. I'll go back into the settings. We'll just double check our preferences. So always use the dark theme. It reduces eye strain. You want to have black in the background and white for your object lines so that the white background is not constantly hitting your eyes, gives you eye strain and headache, especially if you're in front of your computer for large portions of every day. And then for your selection settings, do the desktop standard because that's what I'm going to be using. I turned the usage reporting off. I don't need it sending information every day on what it is we're doing. The tracking, make sure that polar tracking is turned on and make sure your increment is 15 degrees. Now here's what that is. If you're drawing a line, you don't want to guess at the angles, so you can put it at any angle you want, 84.31, but you want to have it snap in common angles for mathematics. So in 15-degree increments, you can basically start at 0, snap to 15, snap to 30. You can actually see it snapping, and then you can see it's 45. Common angles, right, 75. So that's very handy because if I want to draw a line that's exactly 45 degrees, I don't have to type it in, I don't have to measure it. I could just go here and get it to 45 and then type how long I want the line to be, and it's guaranteed that that's a 40-degree angle. So that's what the polar tracking is. And you can turn these on and off just by clicking on them. So if I turn the polar off, you'll notice that my option for perfect angles disappears. Now it doesn't snap in any degree increments. And there might be times that you need to do that, okay? But more often than not, you'll have polar turned on and you'll have your snaps turned on. Okay, so what else do I have? In this little menu here, I've got coordinates turned on. That just allows me to see the XY coordinates down in the corner. It's not 100% necessary, but I usually turn it on. And the only other thing in the settings menu is units, decimal to 2 decimal places. For angles, I've got decimal degrees at 2 decimal places. And then for navigation, just use standard. And that's basically all you have to do to set up AutoCAD exactly as I have it. I used tools and techniques that you might have felt went by really quickly and you didn't really understand what I did or what I clicked or why I did it. That's fine. This was all just about getting it set up so that you're ready to participate in those sessions with me. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if not, we can move into the first couple tutorials for AutoCAD.